ChangeUP, it's meant to be a pitch style event. We really hesitated from calling it a competition because in the social world, we're a little bit more about hugs and like getting along and collaboration than in some other worlds I'm used to working in. So it really is a collaboration event, not really a competition event. And for the social entrepreneurs that are presenting tonight, it's honestly an opportunity for them to share their story and to actually ask for some help from the community. So ChangeUP, it's not the first one. How many here have been to another ChangeUP before? Nice. How many here have volunteered or pitched at another ChangeUP? Nice. Amazing. So this is the third time that we've run ChangeUP. Started out a few years ago with a small nonprofit called Okanagan Changemakers. And just this year, passed over to Purple to carry on the momentum that was started by Changemakers. The schedule for tonight. We have 6 social enterprises presenting. We'll have voting afterwards. And you can kind of vote. Actually, these might be at the same time. The voting is extended. But we'll have Brian come up and talk after about Persephone and Ryza and his story. So to set the stage and sort of like get everyone on the same page, let's sort of agree a little bit or look at what a social enterprise is. So this is the Canadian government's language around what a social enterprise is. And there's some important pieces to the language here. Some of those are like right in the name, social enterprise. The part that many forget is the enterprise part. You actually have to sell something. So selling goods or services and then to achieve community, social, or environmental initiatives. Those are really, really critical pieces of the definition and the understanding of what a social enterprise is. For-profit, not-for-profit, but a majority of profits and sort of like the activity of the organization should be directed at achieving social objectives. So this is another important piece, for-profit or not-for-profit, but there's lots of other models in there that are some hybrid form. Tonight we've got a really good diverse group of social enterprises ranging from straight up for-profit. We've got a community contribution company who's also incorporated, or also a B Corp. We have a for-profit paired with a nonprofit. We have a co-op and 2 charities. So a nice mix of social enterprise and corporation models, all of them working on some important challenges in the community. Okay, so why are we doing this? Like, why are we here tonight? What are some of the issues that we're seeing? These issues, I would say we're preaching to the choir, as they say. These sorts of issues are really endemic in communities around the world. What we're seeing, though, is that the organizations and the people that are trying to solve these issues, research shows it and our work shows it, that the biggest challenge that they face is actually their funding model. Many social enterprises are nonprofits or charities, and many of those are grant and donor dependent. And if you look at that funding model that works on, donor priorities and donor life cycle and timelines, those are like decidedly short and very hard to control. So when you look at challenges like this that are like decidedly need long-term solutions, the funding model of many social enterprises is just totally misaligned. It makes it very challenging to put long-term solutions in place when you have a short-term, unpredictable revenue model. So a little bit about Purple, and then we'll get on to everything else. So Purple is our company. It stands for Purposeful People. And it's kind of fun. It has this little smiley face. So just very briefly on what we do. We do 2 things primarily. We have a workshop called So Fun, and it's pretty fun. stands for social fundamentals or social enterprise fundamentals. It's typically a one-day session, either in the community or with an organization who wants to do it for themselves, and will come and facilitate it. Teaches basic tools about social enterprise development to help sort of move it forward and create a bit of focus and empower you with some of the global best practice tool sets around developing social enterprise. Also, we run a social enterprise acceleration program. This is structured, and basically what we do is hire experienced social entrepreneurs to come in and help provide structured, long-term mentorship to help you grow your social enterprise. Was that clear? Amazing. Been working on that. Okay, so some examples to get you guys going. Some of the work we've done. Brain Trust is here. Mona's here. We've helped Brain Trust to sort of like piece together what their minimum viable product or minimum viable service could be in a concussion treatment model. Silver Lake was in earlier today. They've been around for 40 years, running, as you may or may not know, a summer camp for kids on a forestry education site. They came in to look for some help to extend their revenue model into the other 10 months a year. So we've helped them scale up their sort of event hosting for corporate and sort of wedding venue rentals. One Big Table, you're going to hear more from them. How was the food? There we go. So I'll let them share their story. And Healthy Essentials, Christina is here tonight as well. Christina's running a multidisciplinary mental health clinic. The outcomes that she's achieving are tremendous, and we're helping her move from a sole practitioner model to a multidisciplinary center with several practitioners in it. If you want to talk more about that, where's Christina? Right over here. You got to talk to her. All right, our team briefly. Myself and Amanda are mostly full-time. Amanda's actually full-time. She's amazing out back. Give a round of applause for Amanda for putting all this together. And Fraser and Ken both helped to get this off the ground as founders. And now, with a small team of us, we're providing mentorship as we come across social enterprises that are looking for it. But it's a diverse team, balanced with different skill sets and background to make it helpful. There are 6 organizations or companies presenting tonight. They each get 6 minutes. We have a cowbell, and it'll start to ring louder and louder after 6 minutes.
I'm going to go fast.
To pull them off the stage. I would also encourage you to start clapping really loud when the cowbell starts ringing. This is how you should sort of keep in mind a bit of an evaluation and what we're looking for. Their impact, sustainability, that's financial sustainability, not environmental sustainability, but you can look at that too. Their team, do they have the team to be able to execute on what they're going to talk about? Are they actually like giving you a solution that does create social impact? That's pretty important. And the last bit is just like, can they even tell you what they're doing? We're hoping they can. A couple of things before I move on. Okay, so a couple of the details. Each one will ask for help. This is an opportunity for the community to open their arms, buy from them. That'd be a good start. Create a partnership. Support them with time, energy, whatever they're looking for. This is an opportunity for you to get creative and think about your own organization and your network. So that's really part of the point. We'll have 2 of the organizations will join our program for 6 months. And in addition, we will also tonight be voting for a fan favorite or community favorite. Crowd pleaser is what I called it. So if you have your phone here, you'll be able to vote. There'll be 6 options. You can choose one. If you vote twice, it won't work. If you vote for somebody else, it will actually change your vote. So if you can't make up your mind, you can vote a few times, but it will only actually record 1 vote. We'll give you the details a little bit later on tonight. And that's really it. So first up, Michael from Start Fresh, and I'm just going to let him introduce himself because he's better.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So we're hiring. This was great. I guess I didn't need a Castanet ad after all. My name is Michael Buffett. I'm the owner of the Start Fresh Kitchen and the president and founder of the Start Fresh Project Society. Thank you. There's a 6-minute timer. And I'm a chef, clearly. After culinary school, when I received my Red Seal, I was given some pretty amazing opportunities. I traveled Canada, worked in some amazing restaurants. I became the youngest wine cellar chef at the Calgary Petroleum Club, the first executive chef at Mount Royal University, and one of the youngest restaurant chefs at the Banff Springs Hotel. I own a house, I have a car, I've got a beautiful, supportive partner who puts up with all my crazy ideas. And, woo! And these are all things I'm really proud of. But that wasn't always my story. I was actually born in New York, and when I was 3, my father left. He was an alcoholic, big into drugs, probably the best thing that ever happened to me, but I didn't know that then. And even though my mom remarried and we moved to Canada when I was 8 years old, I rebelled a lot. My stepdad had to put up with a lot, and I got in trouble in school, and by the time I was 16, I thought I knew everything, and I moved out. I was like, I'm out of here, I'm gonna do this on my own, I can do it better. By the time I was 17, I realized I was an idiot, and that I didn't know anything, really. And things got dark for a while. I ended up living in the boys' home. I slept in church basements more times than I would like to admit, ate at the food bank, and didn't know where I was gonna get my next meal from a lot. Those are things that I didn't always like to talk about. I was embarrassed, mostly, about them, and I really, I remember this one time when I was like rolling my mat out in this church basement, and a farmer came in. He owned a winery, and he needed help at the winery, and I raised my hand, and I went, and I worked for him that night, middle of the winter, picking grapes for ice wine. So I went out, he gave me a jacket, he gave me boots, he employed me for a couple of days, fed me, and helped me get a job in a restaurant. And that was a starting point when my life changed. When I moved to Okanagan 4 years ago, I decided I was gonna, instead of being embarrassed about that, I was gonna use it as inspiration to do something cool. I don't know how this works, but let's see. So I started teaching cooking classes at the Canadian Mental Health Association. The classes were really popular. I enlisted the help of some friends, chefs, nutritionists, farmers, and we registered as a nonprofit and started going around town looking for new partners, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA Employment Program, Caris Society, and we were growing, and some really nice people liked what we were doing and donated a small plot of land for us to do some farming. So we have a teaching farm. Talk about therapy, right? Get outside, get your hands in the dirt, grow your own vegetables, produce, understand a little bit more about where your food comes from. This was an amazing thing, but we realized, as Andrew talked about a lot, that we needed to fund it. Farming's not cheap. Are there any farmers, past farmers in the audience? It's not cheap. You don't make a ton of money. So we needed to figure out the funding piece. So I got to work. I started writing the business model for the Start Fresh, a collaborative kitchen, which would work in several ways. All of the produce that's grown on our farm is purchased through our business and used for catering and events. We would do boutique cooking classes, and we would have a space to facilitate our classes. June of this past year, we opened that space in Landmark 2, the Start Fresh Kitchen. Tuesdays in this space are dedicated to our year-long certification program that's free for people who are experiencing barriers to employment. Our team goes out and harvests the vegetables, purchases all of them, and that creates a baseline of funding to make sure that our program can operate and that no one has to pay for it. We do still go out and try to get funding, and we've been successful a few times, and what that really helps us with is development. So we were able to build a chicken coop, put in irrigation, build a greenhouse. This year we're installing bees. The training program is growing. We take our participants on tours. We have them in every week. And this, the most inspiring thing that happened to me this year was actually graduating our first class of participants. The model works pretty remarkably because not only do they get to go out and get that kind of, I said it before, but therapy. Is this timer going? I'm probably over 6 minutes already. They said they had a cowbell. But something that I learned through this process is just because they've spent a year with us and we've inspired them to want to go out and get jobs in the industry doesn't mean that they're necessarily ready yet. We have employers ready to hire out of our program, and when we offer jobs, they say, oh, we need a little bit more time. So something that we're working on right now, and you should be able to come and experience in April, is that we're going to offer a quick, there it is.
Getting closer.
Sweet. A quick breakfast and lunch service in our space where we can actually employ the people that have come through our program. So we can train them, get them outside, help them be inspired about food, engage with food in a healthier way, and then actually give them a paid apprenticeship program in our space. So, big question. Everyone wants to get involved, right? Woo! Woo! All right, so we're new, so we're always looking for talented people for our board, people who have some sort of expertise and want to help. Please, that would really help. We need volunteers on the farm if you just want to get outside and get some exercise and really help the community. Spread the word on social media. These are all of our tags. My favorite thing to say is that if you really want to help, all you have to do is come and eat delicious food, take a cooking class, hire us for catering or your events. Obviously, donate money, time, or an extra minute. Thank you, Andrew. Or in April, just come in for breakfast or lunch. Thank you.
You nailed it. All right. Next up, Elevation Outdoors.
Hi, I'm Tori, and I'm the founder of Elevation Outdoors, and this is Mike, our fantastic executive director. Elevation Outdoors is a registered charity, and we work serving youth, at-risk and vulnerable youth. We work through specifically designed outdoor programs, and we work to enhance the lives of youth and help them with personal growth. Our four main programs are Learn to Shred, our winter snowboarding program, Live to Ride, our summer mountain biking program, Get a Grip, which is our spring and fall climbing program, and Wind in Your Sails, which is in partnership with COSA. We also have, new this summer, a pilot hiking program, which we're going to run, which is yet to be officially named. We also run some summer camps in the summer months, obviously. And, and we also rent our 22 passenger bus out for a way to create revenue. Now, I'm sure that every one of you in this room has been affected by mental health in some way, whether it's your friends or your kids' friends. This statistic really speaks loudly in that 3.2 million youth in Canada are affected by mental health every year. So Elevation Outdoors works towards combating the problem of youth mental health within the Okanagan. Our recipe for success is
outdoor sports programs plus mentorship, which works in a great way towards helping youth find mentorship in our volunteer team. And I find that you see kids come back for a second and third time to our programs because of our great volunteers and everything that they do. The youth just want to come back and participate again in new and interesting opportunities for them.
Okay, so as Tori said, we've got a few programs. We do our free programs. Yeah, they're free. We also do our Intro to Adventure summer camps and our bus rental service. Intro to Adventure, 3 weeks of summer camps in partnership with the Okanagan Boys and Girls Club. We introduce youth to rock climbing, mountain biking, and fingers crossed Mother Nature will cooperate this year and allow wakeboarding. Small ratios, 12 campers or less, $250 for the week, includes certified instruction, all the equipment they're going to need, as well as transportation. Best value to entertain your kids. Send them to hang out with us. The bus rental business, we do half-day, full-day, or multi-day rentals. 22-seaters, you have to provide the Class 4 driver, though, and you know about our other programs. Who do we want? 10 to 18-year-olds that are willing to try new sports and have parents that will pay for them to do that. $250, great deal. For the bus rentals, we're looking for other charities, nonprofits, community organizations, school groups that don't want to own a vehicle because vehicle ownership is expensive and you have to repair them. It's really fun. Help us pay for our repairs. But you do have to be able to provide your own Class 4 driver to meet our insurance requirements. Our team, myself, I have a business degree which helps us run the business side of things. I'm also a certified rock climbing, mountain biking, and snowboard instructor, so I get to do what I love. Tori, master's in experiential learning, kind of handy when you're developing programs. Our volunteer coordinator, Miranda Birkbeck, somewhere out here, Valley First employee. Woo! And our amazing volunteers, some of which are actually at Big White about an hour ago, teaching some kids to snowboard. So that's really our team. We're small, but we're powerful. These are the groups we work with, along with a lot more. Okanagan Boys and Girls Club holds a special place in our heart. They partnered with us to start the Intro to Adventure summer camps. Without them, it would not have happened. They absorbed the loss in the first year and give us a place to call home for office. As well, they used to rent their vehicles, so they've given us a whole lot of information to get us started to where we are in our vehicle rental program today. The outcomes of our programs. Last year, 2017, Learn to Shred Snowboard program, 100% of the kids that came through self-reported an increase in self-confidence and their ability to deal with stress. That's how you defeat mental health issues right there. I don't think I need to say a whole lot more about that. That speaks for itself. Successes we've had with our social enterprise models. Year 2 in our summer camps created a positive return on investment for the organization. Pretty sweet for year 2 for that. Great feedback from the parents and from the campers, and they're already asking us to expand into winter and March break camps, which is probably really successful given that we've only been doing it for a couple years. The bus rentals, we've had one paying customer. Thank you, School District 23. We've had interest from other groups, including today. I got an email asking about multiple days in May and June, so we're on the right track with that. Where do we want to go? Double the campers, add wakeboarding, come on, Mother Nature, and potentially offer ladies only because they really do need that safe, secure space to try something new and not be worried about dealing with the issues that come with the pressures from boys. And the bus rental, long term, we'd love to rent it 3 to 5 days a week and create a year-round revenue stream that can help us create 25% of our budget from social enterprises because I'm tired of begging for money all the time. That turns out to be about $50,000 a year is what we're really hoping for within the next 5 years. How can you help? Tell people about us, be a customer, partner with us, or give us some money. And then I'm out of time, and that's my brother, so he'll kick me off the stage. Come help us out. Thank you.
All right. Next, but certainly not least, that's not a thing, is Change Gamers.
Hi everyone, my name is Jason. I'm with Change Gamers, and our vision is to inspire and empower youth to change their world. So quick show of hands, who's got kids? Almost everyone, perfect. So we all know that kids and youth spend tons of time on social media. But interestingly enough, kids are also more aware today of all the challenges that we face in the world than ever before. And the great part is, they actually really want to make a difference. So what if we could smash both of those things together? Introducing the ICANN app. It's a social app for social good. So the ICANN app is a safe place for kids to connect with their friends, share stories about what they're doing, learn about events that are going on in their communities or at school, take challenges to make a real difference, and basically do all the things that a lot of kids do today on social networking with a key twist. It meets very strict safety and privacy policies that are mandated federally, internationally, and all over the place, so it can be endorsed in places like schools, safe place for kids, and all the content that comes on the app is moderated. And it has to meet our one key requirement. It has to be positive. Today, the ICANN app is out. We launched the ICANN app about a year ago. We have tens of thousands of kids connecting all around the world every day, accepting challenges, doing things that make a real difference, sharing their stories. It's actually awesome to follow our moderation engine because it's literally crazy positive stories posted by youth all the time. But as you can imagine, being a positive place to help build community and make a positive impact, we started getting interest from schools. And in fact, we started getting interest from a lot of schools. And their interest was helping them create a positive community at school, fill schools with positivity, which, quick show of hands, who would like to see some positive media about what's happening in our schools today? Yeah, everyone would, right? So we launched the ICANN Schools program about 4 months ago. We've been working super hard with our amazing team here in Kelowna. We are Kelowna-based, obviously. And we are running pilots across Canada and the US right now with schools. And that's what I really wanted to share with you guys today, is a little bit of our ICANN Schools program. But instead of just telling you about it, we have a little more fun way to do it. We're going to actually take you through a week in the life of one of our ICANN school students, Emily. And she is a grade 9 student, and she loves being involved. She's an amazing student, and we're just going to do a little presentation on that.
Sunday, lunch. Back to school already? Checking out my school on the ICANN app. Let's see what's going on. My house team's second on the leaderboard right now. Monday morning, so comfy. Checking out the latest news on my school feed. Hey, there's the week's challenge. I have to post 3 positive notes on lockers this week at school. That's awesome. I totally accept that challenge. Monday at lunch. Nice. I got a new friend request. Yes, it must be the girl I met in homeroom today. Accept. Monday afternoon. I posted a story at our bake sale today at school. We raised $150 for the SPCA. Cookies to help kiddies? I love it. Tuesday morning. Time to rise and shine. I wonder what day it is today. World Thinking Day. Hey, Dancer Chick posted about recycling. Cool idea. Tuesday at lunch. Posting sticky notes at my school to complete my challenge and earn points for my house team. The top team this week gets ice cream sandwiches at lunch on Friday. I really love ice cream. Challenge completed. Wednesday, first thing, I woke up to a lot of buzz on my school space. Oh, great reminder. I should wear my pink shirt for Pink Shirt Day. Wednesday morning, and I've just got to school. So awesome to see so many people who wore pink shirts. Now, time to check into the event and earn some serious points for my house team. I can't wait to share these photos on the app with my friends at other schools so they can see them too. Wednesday afternoon, I checked my notifications. I got 11 likes, 4 comments on my story about the bake sale. Oh, it's kind of like a digital hug. Thursday morning, I woke up early today. Took some time to read the latest posts and share some comments. I checked the leaderboard. Our team is so close. I'm going to have to rally some friends to get that ice cream tomorrow. Thursday at lunch. Helped clean up the art room today. The teacher gave me a hand. Oh, I gave her a hand, actually. And then she gave me a sweet note. It felt great to get a note from my teacher. It makes me want to do more. Even sweeter, she gave us a few bonus points to our team. Friday morning. Wow. Every locker had positive notes on it this week. That was so awesome. Check my school feed for all the latest. Cool. Check out all these photos from last night's basketball games. Friday afternoon. Woohoo! My team made it to first this week. Who wants ice cream? What a great week. I made friends, completed challenges, shared some stories, earned some points, and really just connected with my school. What did I learn? Simple. In life, do good and be kind.
Thanks, Emily. So in addition to schools run blue, we do partner. I'm also time conscious. So I'm going to save the best part for last. I want to introduce, actually, being local, we get to bring one of our amazing members up on stage and have him speak for a few minutes about his, well, 1 minute, about his experience. This is Kate in H1.
I started out grade 5 as an ordinary grade 5 kid, playing with friends, video games, and acting. But it all changed when I did a show at Actors Studio called Anne of Green Gables. I was kids ensemble, so I was off stage a lot. I met someone from Change Gamers named Peter, CGP'd on the app, but he introduced me to Change Gamers and I was intrigued. It had to do with helping people, and it was so fun. I got on and was greeted by an I can email telling me all about the app. It was super helpful. It reminded me of social media, but helping others. Social media because you have friends that you can send super cool cheers to, all to brighten their day. And you can post. Why not post about something helpful you did? It inspires others to do the same. And you don't have to worry about inappropriate stories because first, it's checked by a machine, then to be more secure, ICANN members make sure it's safe. You can't like stories. Instead, you can love them by clicking on the heart. Even better. And you can comment your cheers to the stories that you like too. There's so much discovering that I can do on the app, like poverty, world hunger, and so many other causes. But even better, you can donate. Since when I've had the app, I've donated over $100 to causes that I believe in. And I've got a ton of clothes for the homeless during the winter. I'm still trying to expand more on the project to help even more people. I like the ICANN app so much that I've shared it to my grade 5s and 6s. They loved it. It is so important to me. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't understand much about homelessness, the earth, friends, helping, and so many other things. In conclusion, I think that Change Gamers is a huge plus, and I am so happy that I got it.
We still need help. We need partners. We're raising some capital. And I knew if I put Caden up here, Andrew would never take him off the stage.
That was great. Nice work. You killed it. All right, without further ado, Habitat for Humanity.
A young mom hops on the bus on her way to work. And on the bus, she keeps looking at her watch, like every few minutes. Not sure whether she's trying to speed up time or slow it down. Because this mom knows that when she gets to work and when her watch shows 12 noon, she has to make a phone call to the school where her son goes.
When it's noon, that's when the principal's free, and that's when she's going to call and ask the principal if her son can be put on the breakfast program because she can no longer afford reasonably healthy food and rent.
A young dad gets into his older, medium-sized car, and he drives to work, and he's sick at heart. Because he knows at the end of his day, when he gets home, he has to call his 2 children near and tell them that they need to move again. 3rd time this year, 3rd new school. At Habitat for Humanity, we hear stories like this every single day. And that's a problem.
Hi there. Well, that didn't line up very well, did it? It does say one problem up there. Affordable housing. Governments are talking about it. Municipal councils are fretting over it. Everybody's doing studies about it. Everybody's trying to figure out affordable housing and how do we do it. Habitat for Humanity has a great solution to this. Affordable housing. You don't have to keep talking about it. Our model, safe, decent, and affordable. It's bringing communities together. It's building stability within our community. It's giving a sense of worth to families. Our model is pretty simple. Habitat, we build affordable homes, gift in kind, donations, cash donations, volunteers coming out onto our build sites. We build a lot cheaper than market does. Our families partner with Habitat for a mortgage, interest-free. How nice is that? No down payment. They give us 500 hours of their sweat equity. A lot of the time, it's building their own house to get into that house. The benefits that come back from that are huge. Your family is starting to get a sense of pride, self-worth. They're buying into their own future. Generational wealth makes so much difference. Rent doesn't do that. Our studies prove family, physical, mental health increases. Kids are doing better in school. Often on a two-parent family, one parent will go back to school and increase the earning potential for that family. On the economic side within the community, $175,000 is the average that comes back into the community per family that we put into a home.
On the special day when we hand the front door keys to a family, this is the question we most often hear. Can we live here forever? So a Habitat family moves into their Peachland home, and a young boy just exuberantly runs from room to room to room and inside and outside and upstairs and downstairs. He comes running up to his mom, barely stopping before he crashes into her, and he says, "Mom, I've never really wanted to have a birthday party at my house before, but I do now. I really, really want to have a birthday party in my house, and could we live here forever?" A Habitat home, a Habitat family, moves into a West Kelowna home. And on that day that they receive the key, a sister pushes her brother's wheelchair over the threshold of their doorway. And with eyes that have not always held hope, they look into the eyes of their parent and they say, "Could we live here forever?" Yes. Yes, you can.
So how do we do this? Some of you may have heard of this little store that's out there operating in the Okanagan Valley. We're doing quite well with it. Restore covers 100% of our operating capital for the affiliate. Our impact that's coming back from Restore, a lot of people don't recognize, it's huge. 5.8 million pounds, 24,000 cubic meters. That is since we opened our first store in 2013. We're currently operating with 40,000 square feet of retail space in the valley. We're increasing that to 69,000 square feet by the end of this year. Record growth. Let's talk globally. We are the fastest growing mid-market size, 8 countries, over 1,000 stores. And we like this one. We lead all Canadian locations for drive-up donations. Put this into scale. Between our 2 stores that we have operating here in Kelowna right now, just over 18,000 drive-up donations last year coming to our back door, giving us product for our stores. Greater Toronto area, 6.2 million people, 11 Restores operating there. Their 11 stores combined, 4,300 drive-up donations. Thank you, Okanagan. Oh, I hit something here. There we go. This is how we fund what we do. 100% of all our cash and gift in kind donations that come in go straight to our build program. 100% of our mortgage funds go straight into our build programs. Again, Restore is paying all our operational costs, additional profits, all going into our build programs. There's the happy people. We've got an army of over 200 volunteers working out there. That number almost doubles when we're onto a build site. Currently a staff of 21 people, keeping everybody on the straight and narrow. And I hear that. Our history, first 20 years, volunteer managed, 20 homes delivered. Last 5 years, staff managed 13 homes delivered, 2 Restores opened. Next 5 years, we're slated for 31 new homes, 2 more restores, central distribution, prefab, and a new Canadian retail startup with an e-business for Habitat. People are talking about it. Habitat's doing it. We say we're building 31 homes. We need to build 30 homes per year to make an impact in this valley. And we need your help to do it. Thank you.
Hello, hello. My name is Jeff Hoffert. I'm honored to represent our team, our Do Some Good team here tonight. I moved to Kelowna almost 5 years ago, and when I first came here, I was actually working with one of the schools to help connect their youth in the community. So there was a group of grade 7 students where they wanted to have the whole group go out and volunteer. And I was cold calling nonprofits, one at a time, because there was no idea of where a group this size could go and where youth could go. Now, the most beautiful thing happened very shortly after that. I met Mr. Sheldon Garner. I think most of you know him. He's an amazing man, and he has 2 daughters, and we talked about this, and he said, you know, there's got to be a better solution here. And that's how we connected, is a shared passion for youth engagement. And that's how a lot of this was born. But that was just the beginning. So we continued the discussion around this whole thing of we need to solve this problem, youth engagement, but there was a bigger picture. And that's where our discussions went back to our roots. We're both Sasky boys, small town Saskatchewan, right? Woo! And a big part of that is the concept of community. What does that mean? And growing up in a small town, what was amazing is that everyone got involved. Everyone jumped in to help. If there was a problem or something going on in the town, everyone jumped in, whether it's a nonprofit, a charity, a group, small business owners, everyone. And we talked about that idea. And, you know, it was Jerry's Lumberyard that we went and supported and did business rather than the big box, because Jerry's was the one who sponsored our sports teams. He's the one that made sure those sports teams stayed alive for youth to get engaged. So we wanted to find another way, or that other kind of issue addressing is recognizing those doing good, everyone doing good in the community. So this is what we want to do. This is our mission, creating an ecosystem where the entire community can come together to do good. So whether it's people, whether it's community causes like the ones you see tonight, whether it's good companies that are supporting the community like Jerry's Lumberyard, we wanted to find a way where we could connect them all in one space. And our platform, our website, and our new mobile app does exactly this. The point is to connect these to make a meaningful impact, to make stronger communities. So our business model works by the fact that good companies are the one, they pay licensing for different packages and features so that the entire rest of the community can use it for free. It's unreal what we're doing here and what our good companies are doing leading this movement. So how does that work? What does that look like? Well, businesses use our platform to showcase their involvement in the community. They're sharing stories, they're celebrating what they're doing, recognizing what their employees are doing. They can also use it to build customer loyalty, and they can also use it to engage their employees. The organizations, they're using it to recruit, manage, recognize their volunteers or donors. They're tracking all of that goodness and impact. And what's amazing is they can now use our platform to fundraise, and I'll go into that in a second here. Some of you might remember us actually as Volinspire. So if you've followed along our journey, we've evolved. And the Do Some Good name and rebrand was all about the fact that we're not just about volunteerism. It's still part of our core, but there's so many ways to do good. So whether that is the ability for people to find volunteer opportunities, but they can find events to go support causes. They can share stories. They can donate. And now they can be rewarded by good companies when they shop. And I want to get into that because this is a pretty cool new feature here. Okay. we're in this big movement right now of shop local, support local. And so right now we're launching a feature where business can create offers and a percentage of the purchase goes back to your favorite cause. So imagine you start your day, you go for a coffee, you continue the day, you go to a yoga class, and later in the day you need to do some shopping and you grab a new shirt. Imagine that every single one of those events ends up in a donation back to your favorite cause or a cause you care about. Imagine that just by shopping local and supporting our small business owners in our community ends up helping to solve homelessness, that donations go back to actually support those causes that are dear to our heart. So I just want to say very quickly, this is a cool feature. If you're a small business owner or any business owner that is interested in this side, come say hi. We've been hitting some cool milestones. So we're nearly at 1 million volunteer hours logged through our platform. And what's pretty amazing about that is not just the number. A lot of that's been logged through our desktop. It's been on our site. Now with our app, we expect that to go up because not everyone logs hours. But what's more important is what those hours are doing. That's supported more than 6,000 organizations. And if you can only imagine what that actually means in the reality of our community, what that actually ends up doing. It's all about impact. So it's been really cool. We do our best to walk the talk. So all about impact has led us to some of these recent things. Andrew was talking about B Corp, things like that. 100% green energy and the social impact award we recently won. We wanted to shout out to a lot of our good companies who are on this journey because they are leaders in this whole journey, helping other good companies also get involved and make a larger impact. And if you know good companies doing awesome work in our community, or you are one, again, come say hi and let us share more about this. This is the reason we do it, building capacity, helping organizations like the ones you've seen tonight. And it's free for organizations, so go check it out. There's nothing stopping you at all. We are on this amazing journey, but we're just getting started, and the best is yet to come. So I want to welcome you to do some good. Download the app, check it out, come learn more, and I want a huge thank you to the other presenters. There's some awesome stuff happening in this community, and this is proof of that. And I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to finally thank my Unreal team. The Do Some Good team is a family to me. It's some of the most passionate, amazing people I've ever met in my life, and I'm so proud of all of us and how hard we push to do some good with you guys. So thank you very much.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Scott Nystrom. I'm a chef and shopkeeper at One Big Table. How's the food tonight? Yeah, right on. That's how we do. That's how we do at One Big Table. We bring our community together over food. At One Big Table, we gather the best our province has to offer, preserving the unique flavors that define us as British Columbians. At our small shop on St. Paul Street, we provide consistent access to local food every day. Organic sourdough, seasonal produce, ethical meat and vegan cheese, and feature all of our ingredients from the shop on our daily menus. But One Big Table is more than just a cooperatively owned grocery store and cafe. We're more than a renegade catering company. We're a community hub, a safe and inclusive space where people of all walks of life, hungry for connection, can meet together over locally roasted coffee or heartwarming soups, sharing wisdom and community contribution with each purchase. Slides in this. We're eating some food, we're getting some community going, we're building that connection. The value we provide our customers is a unique grocery experience. Our team of shopkeepers and chefs tell the story of each product on our shelves with a passion that is contagious, inspiring customers to cook more at home. We teach the true value of local as more than just a buzzword. Local means peak freshness, improved flavor, and seasonal variety. It means the nutrients stay in our soil and the money stays in our pockets. We reduce the environmental impact with less shipping and support our neighbors with each purchase. As we normalize this idea of eating local every day, we change our relationship with food as something more than just sustenance. It's a social enterprise that spreads change throughout our community and the world beyond. One Big Table was founded by Giulio Boccoli in resistance to factory-farmed kitchens and impersonal supermarkets. It's our connection to our suppliers that makes it unique. Because when you meet your makers, it changes your relationship with your food. You respect it more. You wrap it safely to keep it fresh. You use it all without waste. Through underground suppers, farm-hosted dinners, pop-up grocery stores, and a successful crowdfunding campaign, we opened our first brick-and-mortar location 6 months ago, providing consistent access to local food, a farmer's market every day. Today, One Big Table boasts over 500 co-op members, in addition to growing numbers of followers and customers in the community. Our cooperative framework encourages participation as a community, as each member becomes personally responsible to put their money where their mouth is and vote with their dollars to support the small, the unique, the ethical, the delicious. Alone, our voices are small and quiet, but together we make a musical choir as we sing for our supper. And there's room at the table for all of us. As a cooperative of passionate chefs, eaters, and makers, we each play a different role in bringing food to the table. Some of us grow, some of us cook, some of us shop. But together we are creating a marketplace that is shifting our local food economy. Our diversified business model leverages multiple income streams that all strategically support one another. A corporate catering event or a dinner party can easily offset a slower lunch hour at the shop. We consider ourselves a grocery store first, but our daily hot lunch and catering program allows us to cycle through product, featuring new suppliers and testing new recipes, ensuring the local eats on our shelves and menus are always fresh and exciting. A $20 investment buys you an inclusive membership, supporting our purchasing power, but really it's instilling a sense of pride and personal ownership in this project. Our consistent and sustainable growth is projected to reach $500,000 in sales in our first year open. And all of that stays right here in our province, most of that in our community. With that $500,000, we've created jobs for 6 shopkeepers and salaries for at least 12 artisan makers. Our community impact is also visible in our wildly popular Pay It Forward program, where generous patrons can buy a warm bowl of love for someone else in need, feeding their community with their dollars. By participating in their local food system, our members share in the responsibility for nourishing our community at large. So where do we need help? We've come this far without a large financial outside investment, and now we'd like to explore funding strategies that can help us grow smarter so we can have a greater social impact. Working alongside the John Howard Society, we are rekindling their workplace training program for people with barriers to employment and would love help navigating the bureaucratic minefield to help as many people as we can, sharing food wisdom and transferable skills to provide meaningful work for those in need. Our sustainable catering model through our One Company at a Time program sells a yearly catering subscription, sort of like a CSA for corporate lunches. This allows us to project sales and forecast staffing needs so we can employ more people with barriers. As we expand our partnerships in the Valley and meet new makers, eaters, and chefs, how can we best scale or replicate the business to reach a broader audience? When you have more than you need, you don't build a higher fence. You build a bigger table. Help us build a bigger table. I just want to say thanks. Thank you to all of you for coming tonight, taking this time to share food with us, to share stories, share community. Thanks to Purple for hosting us this evening. Thank you for my amazing team who supports us every day, and all of you in the community that then support us and help us support other people. We really appreciate it. Lots of love. See you at the top.
So this is for the Crowd Pleaser Award. This is what to keep in mind as you're thinking about sort of who you think sort of best represents these values. And this is how you do it. If you had on your mobile and if you don't have a phone with you, we have paper ballots. Amanda's got them over there. We'll sort of circulate a few paper ballots. So if you go to changeup.participable.com, you can make one vote. If you hit A, it's pretty self-explanatory here. You vote for Start Fresh. This is in the order of the presentations tonight. Again, if you change your mind, go ahead. The technology is pretty secure there. And if you're not ready to vote, that's okay too, because while you consider your vote, Brian's going to come up and chat with us about Persephone and Ryza and even more. ChangeUp.participole.com. So I'll do a little bit of chatting about Brian before he joins us up here. Brian's the CEO of Persephone Brewing. Persephone, not only did they make the beer that you had tonight, they were also the Canadian Social Enterprise of the Year in 2017. Brian presently lives out in Gibsons. He is also the CEO of Ryza Capital, which is an impact investment fund. They have a few different vehicles to invest in social enterprise. He's going to share a bit about that. And he's got a few other stories up his sleeves about his journey as a social entrepreneur. But this, it's a nice story, really about putting your money where your mouth is in terms of your values. So, are we good? Yes? I don't know. I didn't plan an intro for Brian. He said he was going to intro himself. I don't have anything else to say. Are we good? Okay, we can go back to that slide after. All right, let's welcome Brian.
So thanks for having me, folks. I feel a little bit, well, I'm thoroughly impressed with the pitches tonight and the caliber of entrepreneurs and the caliber of organizing and the people that I've met before. I feel like there's probably a dozen or so people in this crowd who could do this keynote just as well as I could. So thanks for letting me be a part of it. Forgive me, I'm going to look at my phone for notes. No offense intended. The slides that I prepared and didn't get to enter in time enough to be up on there had a title which was Business as a Force for Good, period. And I'm going to refer to that a couple of times because I think it's a little bit of what we're trying to do here. But I'll start with a brief story. About 18 years ago, I was in India for 3 months with Melissa, who would later become my wife for the past 17 years. And we were there for about 3 years to do good. It was sort of the typical standard volunteer work of teaching some English and explaining the importance of cleanliness and playing soccer with kids and that kind of stuff. The village we were in was very isolated in eastern India. In fact, it was about a 4-hour walk to the nearest bus stop and another 4-hour bus ride to the nearest town. So we didn't go in until about 2 months into our volunteering. And we had a chance to go in because we helped some of the villagers take their produce and livestock to market. So we went on that trip, and as we got into town, we had a chance to sort of roam around and look around this, this town, mid-sized town in eastern Bihar. We picked up something to eat, and we're sitting on the side of the road, sort of where a curb would be, and a really pleasant young man came up and sat down beside me and started asking some questions. And they were sort of standard questions we get when we're traveling in foreign countries. And, where are you from? And who are you working for? And, those kinds of things. And what are you doing here? And Melissa and I were giving the pretty standard answers, like, just helping out where we can and just providing a little bit of volunteer labor and named the nonprofit organization we were helping out with. And that pleasant young man was joined fairly quickly by another young man, and then another and another. And before we knew it, Melissa and I were, and Melissa's about sort of 5'1", so she was tucked pretty tightly in behind me at this point. We were surrounded by about a dozen guys, men in the street. And by that time, we'd stood up and we're starting to feel fairly nervous, just because not exactly sure where this was going. And at that point, the mannerism of the young man suddenly changed, and he said to us, "What are you doing here?" And we sort of stammered, and before I could get a response out, he said again, "What are you doing here?" And then he emphasized it a little differently. What are you doing here? And he said it again and again. It came at us about sort of 6 times. And I realized I didn't have an answer. And so I finally just sort of stammered and said, I don't know. And at that point, the crowd dispersed. All the guys walked away. And Melissa and I looked at each other and said, what the hell just happened there? But we realized that it brought up more questions for us. Questions like, what are we doing here in India? And are we passing through, or are we here to stay? And other questions that really made us question, where we were in our lives at that time. And it was a rather pivotal moment for me. And it was the beginning of a tiny piece of wisdom that I rely on to this day. The wisdom was something of threefold. One piece was that we need to appreciate the capability of people's to solve their own problems. So that was important. The second was to figure out the link between wealth in North America and poverty in other parts of the country. Now became part of my life work. And finally, it was to till my own soil. So that notion of going home and working in my community became now critical as opposed to offering to work in someone else's. So my background, just to add to Andrew's impressive filler, and I offer this as a little bit of both context because I weave together a bunch of stories because the truth is I have a difficult time these days knowing what hat I'm wearing because I have involvement in a bunch of different things, but just to give you a bit of where I came from, but also to offer you some other examples of social enterprises and social ventures that are, have been around, and some of them the four parents of this really what I would call the social justice movement. After we got back from India, I went to work for an organization called Planned Lifetime Advocacy Network, or PLAN for short. Anybody familiar with PLAN? Great. It's worth looking up. And really the founders, Aled Mansky and Vicky Kimak, are really grandparents of the social enterprise movement in Canada, have been celebrated many times with things like Order of Canada, and deserve accolades many millions of times more. They're really amazing and brilliant people. They started an organization, PLAN, with the simple premise that if people whom were vulnerable to being isolated just had better social networks, and by the way, this is 25 years ago, far before sort of the Facebook and the online social networks. So if people had better social networks in their lives, they would be happier, healthier, safer, more fulfilled, and wealthier. And so PLAN set about to develop thousands of social networks, particularly with the idea of having people with disabilities at the center of those social networks. Because people with disabilities are some of the most vulnerable to being isolated. And so if we develop social networks with and around them and their assets, then they will have better lives. And the work of PLAN, has been profound in many thousands of people's lives and led to what is now the Registered Disability Savings Plan. So our RRSP for retirement, our ESP for education, our DSP allows us as parents, cousins, brothers, sisters, nephews of people with disabilities to save money for their future. Whereas previously, when people with disabilities have assets, their disability benefits get clawed back. So now what PLAN's work did was really change the system of how we care and and work with people with disabilities and their families. I continued the work my work in disability movement for about sort of 7 or 8 years with PLAN and other organizations, and then I went to work for the BC Co-op Association, and then in the downtown east side. And so for those of you who aren't from Canada, downtown east side has pretty rough scenarios, and there's a lot of work to be done in that neighborhood. And while I was working in the downtown east side, I helped to figure out some financing, some creative financing to allow the transfer of ownership of a business and building called Save on Meats. For those of you who've gone down Hastings, it's the big neon sign with the pink pig. For 55 years, Save On Meats was there and owned by a fellow by the name of Al Delorier, who was a social entrepreneur long before any of us claimed to be. And as an example, he was a butcher, and he was a small but I think prolific social entrepreneur in that neighborhood through the good times and bad. And one of the things he used to do, which always impressed me, was he would allow somebody to come in and buy a sausage from his butcher shop, and then he'd go in the back and cook it for them, so that they could eat it right away. And the reason was because lots of people who live in SROs in the downtown east side don't have kitchens. So Save On Meats was this critical source of protein for that neighborhood. And Al, exhibited, I think, the character and values that many of us, hope to carry into our social enterprises. Save On Meats got bought by Mark Brand, who is a good friend and a partner in Persephone. And he has carried on the legacy of Save On Meats with hundreds of thousands of meals now going to the low-income community in the downtown east side. And he recently launched Save On Radio, which I'm excited about because I think movements like ours need independent media sources. And so Save On Radio is going to fill that gap. Okay, sorry, I'm starting to hear. Okay, here, let me move up here. Okay, after I left the downtown east side, I went to the Sunshine Coast, went to work for an organization called Community Futures. You have one here. They're in many rural communities in BC. They have huge potential in each of our communities, partly because of their endowment of investable capital and partly because they have a contract with the federal government to do community economic development. And so they are an ally of each of us in this community. And I think if anybody wants to, I think Larry is here with us, who's the executive director of the Community Futures here, and is thinking very much along the same lines as of all of you. So touch base with him. One of the things we invested in was the Gibsons Public Market. So we took a building in Lower Gibsons that had been vacant for about 10 years and fully derelict from, which was about 4,500 square feet, and built it up to about 13,500 square feet, and now a fully functional public market and marine education center. And Jerry Sabursky was the sort of founding executive director who did a lot of the work, but Colin Stansfield, who's one of the EIRs here with Purple, is now our executive director there and doing a great job. And so I think it's another good example of the impact that social enterprise can have in communities. Okay, and in the meantime, I started Persephone Brewing. I'm going to talk more about that, so I won't get into it right now. But I know how important beer is, so I'll definitely come back to it. And then a few years ago, we started to see at Community Futures, we started to see many social entrepreneurs struggling for capital to start up their ventures. And we started to hear from investors saying, I wish I could invest in my own community, but how do I do that? I don't have the due diligence. I don't know what those vehicles are. And so our Community Futures and the Sunshine Coast Credit Union started a company called Ryza Capital. And Ryza's purpose is really to connect social entrepreneurs and impact entrepreneurs to impact investors. And we're doing that. We have a portfolio of about 25 different investments now, and we're building it out in 3 different vehicles. I won't get into too many of those details, but happy to connect later if anybody would like to talk about that. Admittedly, as I say, I have a hard time knowing what hat I'm wearing in all of these sort of roles, and I wanted to sort of share that because for those of you who want to be social entrepreneurs or new coming social entrepreneurs, heads up, because I don't think of of going to work anymore. I think of my life as my mission and my calling to make a difference in the world by using social enterprise and social venture kind of models. And so that's both that's a double-edged sword as an entrepreneur. And my wife would probably emphasize one side of the sword more than the other. But I think why that's important and valuable is because building healthy economies is intimately connected to protecting healthy ecosystems. And that's intimately connected to developing healthy people and communities. So if we start to pull those pieces apart, we have problems, and that leads to degrading communities and poor health and ecosystems that we can no longer look at as sustainable for next generations. So I think it's important for that we social entrepreneurs weave our work and our lives together. Okay, I was going to talk a little bit about mechanics, but Andrew touched on it. But I did want to emphasize or sort of drive home. I actually teach a class at SFU on social enterprise, and for the last for 5 or 6 years. And I always start with by saying there are definitions of what a social enterprise is, but stop looking for them. And my point is that I think it detracts and distracts from what is a more important discourse about how do we change the world. Yes, the models, the legal models, the fiduciary structures will come in due time, and we can find them, and they exist. But don't get hung up on what am I a for-profit or am I co-op or and those things because we ought not. And so I'm going to use some terms like social enterprise, social venture, enterprising nonprofits, co-ops, triple bottom lines, B corps. There's a ton of them, but I use them synonymously because I think that we are a part of the same movement, and that we ought not sort of tear each other down because we have different structures and approaches to how we get things done. One of the sort of the defining characteristic for me that matters, that everybody understands, is hard to convey in words. So I think of it as a graph, so a simple XY graph. And if on the sort of x-axis, we have financial return on investment. And so that's what investors want out, right? And on the x-axis, we have social return on investment. And this is where charities live. They're just we are putting money into charities and they're getting big social return. This is where corporations live, chasing shareholder value and dividends and profits. So those are the two sort of spectrum, if you will. Social enterprise for me is in the middle space. It's us trying to figure out what's that blended business model that captures both social return on investment and financial return on investment. Exactly what the balance is kind of doesn't matter. But what matters is that we're trying to find a balance. So that for me is the defining characteristic. Good enough on mechanics. Let's talk a beer. Okay. So Persephone's about 4.5 years old. My first hire was our head brewer because priorities are what priorities are. You got to make good beer. So we hired Anders McKinnon, and then our second hire was a general manager. His name's Dion White, and I poached him from our regional district, local government, the Sunshine Coast Regional District. Because his skills were underutilized there as the sustainability manager, and I had a feeling like that job, local government, was sucking his soul. So he took a 40% pay cut to jump into a startup brewery because he's a good man. Both of those guys, among about half of our employees, are owners of our company. And that was an important aspect that we knew we were going to try and democratize our ownership model right from the beginning. And so they are due a lot of the credit for where Persephone's at today. For those of you who don't follow the trials and tribulations of the Agricultural Land Reserve, we're on a farm. Our brewery is focused on a farm. Anybody here heard about our challenges around the Agricultural Land Reserve? Okay. We actually got a whole bunch of support from this area. I want to sort of give my appreciations to B&A. They held a Save the Beer Farm event for us during a time when we were very close to being evicted from our farm. So there's a whole bunch of policy discussion and idealistic discussion around how we can use agricultural land well. I'm not going to get into that, but it's an important one for you and us to be having. But the farm for me has become literally my own soil to till, and it's where my family is now very much engaged in a really meaningful way. So my kids are now growing up on a farm. They've literally helped plant, the hops and so on and so forth. And so tilling, our own soil has become very meaningful for us and my family. We love to talk a lot about our people that's involved, and yet for tonight's presentation, I actually want to talk more about what they have invested in. Because what's important about social enterprise is that it's not just the entrepreneur who's investing in making it happen. It's all the community around them. It's the advisors, it's the supporters, it's the customers. And so I regularly ask myself, why would they do this? And I think it's multi-layered, like an onion. we have a running joke for the beer farm to see if every single speech we do about what we do, if we can layer in a beer pun or a farming pun. So see if you can catch the other ones in my spiel. And we think of our farm as a system of systems. 3 subsystems. So if the bigger system is a farm-based brewery, I'll call the first system field to bottle to field because in simple terms, we grow hops, about 5 acres of hops, and those hops go into flavor and provide the aroma for beer. And at the end of the brewing process, there's somewhere in the realm of sort of 800 to 1,000 pounds of spent grain, barley, and hops. Which for many breweries is a waste product. But what we do is we put it out into our compost pile, mix it with mulch and food scraps from a compost program that our customers actually bring buckets of food scraps and then mix that with and we generate and build compost and soil. And that soil goes back out into our hop yards, into our food crop, fields. And so we're generating to use the Patagonia Provisions term, it's regenerative agriculture. We're adding more value into our agricultural land than was there when we got there. So that's how, I think value-added processing of farm product on farms has huge value for many generations in terms of the arability of our land. Likewise, all of our water gets captured into a pipe system and a treatment system, and we use that wastewater as irrigation water for our crops, obviously on a seasonal basis. So it's kind of like the Head and Shoulders advice of wash, rinse, and repeat, except ours is grow, brew, drink, and repeat. Who doesn't like a shower beer? Am I right? Okay, so those seem like simple terms, and before going on to the next subsystem, if we drill down into that system, we see, that there is a whole bunch of detail that's also there and opportune for social enterprise and for socially just business models and using business as so before we can put hops in, they need to be planted, cropped, weeded, pruning, training, fertilizing, irrigating, harvesting, drying, pelletizing, storing. So at each of these steps, we have opportunities to use our business as a force for good. And as an example, every year we do a harvest and we call community together to help us pick hops by hand. And every year, to our surprise, even in year 4, we had somewhere in the realm of sort of 200 people come out and help pick hops because they are looking for community and to contribute to their community in the same way that we are. So there's opportunities to use our business to build community, to sort of drive that social change we want to see. And then there's a whole bunch of other subsystems around brewing that also have opportunities. Okay, the second subsystem I wanted to name was around purchasing. And Do Some Good is a B Corp. We are a certified B Corp, twice certified B Corp. And I want to highlight B Corps for those of you who don't know, because I think it's an important tool for our movement. For those not familiar, it's similar to what organic certification is for food or fair trade is for coffee. So B Corp certification is a third-party validation that the business is actually doing good. So rather than, just sort of saying, we do great work, and by the way, purchase from Walmart, B Corp certifies that the good that they're doing, and there's sort of 5 ways they certify that. It's how you treat your employees, hopefully I remember these, how you treat the environment, what your governance model is, how you interact with the community, and how your product has an impact on the world, so whether it's a valuable product for the world. So that verification I think is really critical, because many social enterprise and social entrepreneurs are getting away with social washing or greenwashing their business models. There's a whole bunch of entrepreneurs out there saying, we're a social enterprise, and they're not having any demonstrable impact in community or anywhere. So I think a certification program is critical, and I think the best one we have right now is B Corp. Okay. And I wanted to give an example. We buy all of our merchandise, so all the hats, all the T-shirts that you see with Persephone stuff, stickers, all of that is bought through a B Corp called Fairwear. Fairwear is a company that sources merchandise from companies, many of them in China and other countries, but they go out and check the factory conditions. They make sure there's no kids working in there. They make sure they are managing those waste streams. So Fairwear certifies that the companies we buy our merchandise from are reputable and sustainable businesses too. So I think there's ways in terms of the social enterprise ecosystem to work together to go deeper with our impact. It isn't just about, us making beer and even the value that we're adding to our agricultural land. Now we're talking about where T-shirts are coming from and worker conditions in poor countries and so on and so forth. And so I wanted to highlight that network of B Corps is a really critical one, and I think super valuable. Okay, I'm going to skip that. The third sort of subsystem of systems that I wanted to name, I'll loosely title it, Community is Nourished by Food and Vice Versa. And I wanted to tell a story. One of the owners, in fact, one of the first owners of Persephone is a charity. It's a charity by the name of Sunshine Coast Association for Community Living, and SCACL for short, serves people with developmental disabilities within our region. So they provide housing, employment services, care services, and sort of, those typical sort of charitable services that need to be publicly funded. SCACL saw an opportunity to both achieve their mandate in serving people with disabilities and build wealth in their nonprofit organization by investing in Persephone. And they've done it in spades. I have to highlight their executive director. His name is Glenn McClugan, and he really showed leadership in this sense. And over the last 4 years, we've had fundraisers for SCACL. We decided that SCACL would be the only charity that we would donate beer to or do sponsorships or send our fundraising dollars to. So over the last 4 years, we've employed somewhere in the realm of like sort of 15, 16 individuals with developmental disabilities, and still do. And we've channeled somewhere in the realm of $75,000 worth of fundraised dollars to that charity. And a few months ago, the story I wanted to tell, a few months ago, I was in the chicken coop. One of the projects, sort of sub-projects that SCACL manages is they tend our flock of laying hens. So they, keep the hens and they collect the eggs, and then they sell those eggs and use that as revenue for some of their programming, so on and so forth. Well, I was in the chicken coop just checking on some chicks, newly born chicks, and there was sort of 40 or 50 of them, so they're kind of jumping all over the place and whatnot. And I was in there with another fella whose name was also Brian, and Brian is a real unique character, is sort of nonverbal and fits with some of the typical characteristics that we picture when we say developmental disabilities, and yet he's also and he's been a part of our organization right from the beginning. In fact, he helped pot the first hop plants we put into pots in my front yard before we owned our farm, and Brian was there that day. So Brian and I are in the chicken coop, and we were putting the chicks away, and sort of calling in and saying, okay, check you later. And I was walking away from the chicken coop, and I heard Brian start to get really upset. And his characteristics are such that he wears his emotions on his sleeve, and so it escalated very quickly to the point of where I would, might call it sort of freaking out. And he was super upset. So I hustled back, and I realized what he's upset about is one of the chicks, that's sort of this size, had jumped out while we were sort of closing doors or whatever, and was on the ground being attacked by some of the other hens. I don't really understand why hens do this, but they do it. And Brian's really upset, and so I grabbed the chick, and we realized, it's badly beaten up, but not dead. And so we took it in, we nursed it back to health, and in fact, to this day, it's now a layer and is laying eggs, and Brian's collecting those, and Brian obviously has a connection to that bird. But what I think is sort of amazing about this is we've turned the understanding of what disability and unique characteristics are on its head. So most people would look at Brian and say, that person is a net deficit to our society. They don't contribute as much as they take out. That is the common sort of understanding of people with profound developmental disabilities. But Brian is now collecting eggs. Brian is now feeding his community. He's a farmer. He's a contributor. And so, the culture around disabilities is changing because of Brian's involvement at a farm that makes beer. So I think that's sort of extraordinary. And so, here we have a charity that invested in a business that engages their clientele to produce food that feeds the community. So Brian, of whom is many people would think, wasn't going to amount to anything. And the other day, Brian's mom called us at the farm and was in tears because of how their neighbors are now interacting with Brian. They're coming over to their house and saying, hey, can Brian get us eggs this week? And Brian goes, yeah, I can get you eggs. Sure. And I think that's amazing. And so it had a profound impact on Brian and our community, and that's what I would call social return on investment. Okay. I'm getting there. Okay, I wanted to name a couple other things, layers of the onion, if you will, that Persephone is trying to do, but I won't go into a lot of detail. And one of them is that we're trying to model what value-added farm-based businesses can be. And I think the reason we're doing that is because land economics of agricultural land are deeply problematic. New farmers can't afford, old farmers can't get out, the land is too expensive to turn into farms, and so modeling how value-added processing on farms can add margin and profits to subsidize a small farm operation, I think is an important aspect. In fact, we won a Real Estate Foundation BC Land Award in 2016 for that piece of work. We're democratizing our ownership. I mentioned this earlier, so more than half of our owners are our employees, and my goal is to have all of our employees eventually our owners. And we're going to launch a new crowdfunding campaign late 2018, if all goes well, to further democratize the ownership of our company. We also grow, in addition to hops, we grow about 10,000 pounds of food every year. And we wanted to do that because we recognize there's a lot of folks who say, beer, is that really agriculture that we need? And it's a valid question. I think it's nutritionally valuable. But not everybody does. So we have 2 large greenhouses and about a half acre of ground crops and about 2 acres of apples because we wanted to add to our food system in addition to the beer. And we launched this year a community-supported agriculture food box program. So picture the boxes being delivered to your house. Difference being is that our box has beer in it too, as well as your vegetables. So to no surprise, we sold that out fairly quickly. Okay, and then finally, I wanted to say I think it's really important to identify that we farm 100% organic, and it's really important to us how we treat our land for the long term, obvious reasons. Okay, so we're having a positive impact. I have 4 asks when you leave this event tonight. First is support your social entrepreneurs. It's hard being a social entrepreneur, and harder than they think. I'm happy to share, some of the tough stories that we go through. Our business models are not necessarily the most easy to finance, not the easiest to hire for, not the easiest to, have sufficient cash flow to grow or, and scale and so on and so forth. So you got to support social entrepreneurs, whether it's, individuals who self-identify as such or not. Second, buy from social enterprises. This is a really important aspect, is that our markets need to develop for social enterprises to succeed. So if you have an opportunity, buy from social entrepreneurs and social enterprises. Second, invest in social venture and social entrepreneurs. There's a whole shifting sea change, I would say, in the investing market, and I didn't get into too much about RISA, but we are hearing in spades how investors want meaning in their investment portfolio, not oil stocks or gold or other investments that they have no idea what they are. They want them local. They want them in impact. So we can find vehicles to invest locally and in impact. And then finally, and I'll close on, I'd encourage you to ask that same question of, what are you doing here? Like, what are you doing here tonight? What are you doing here in Kelowna? What are you doing here in your job? Or your organization, and how is that going to have an impact in our world? Thank you.
So you've done a lot of different social ventures. I was curious what you think the most impactful one was.
So I think an important element of our discourse around social enterprise needs to be, what do we mean by impact? So my formal training is as an economist, so I get to say, well, it depends. And I think there's an important aspect of that impact question. So there's one question, there's a whole piece around what are the best metrics and what are the best systems to measure things, and is it quantifiable even to measure things like, people's well-being and so on and so forth. But I think there's another aspect that's important for us to wrestle with, and that is, should our impact be going deep into people's lives? Like changing their wealth and their housing and their food, or should we be trying to touch on a little bit of impact with hundreds of thousands of people? So broad and shallow, or deep and few? This is an important aspect, I think, for many social entrepreneurs to really kind of come to terms with early in theirs. So I would say Persephone has a deep impact with a whole bunch of, with a handful of people. I'll say, dozens of people, if you will. But Risa, who invests in, right now 23 odd social entrepreneurs who will have and touch on literally millions of their customers and their, in terms of their impact, it'll have a shallow, impact, but on lots of people. So I think, it isn't as simple as, which would I choose my favorite? I like my beer. But I think investing in impact will be the bigger impact over time, will have the bigger impact over time.
So one of the things I think that I've seen in a lot of, private companies or or nonprofit social enterprises is not always taking the opportunity to engage volunteers in the community that can sort of leverage impact and leverage the amount of work that you need to get done. And so, like you mentioned, involving volunteers in the hop harvest. What are some of the other ways you've engaged volunteers, and also like strategies for doing so?
Okay, so I'm going to have to be a little provocative on this and say I don't really believe in volunteerism. And the primary reason is because volunteerism is based on a power dynamic that is unidirectional. Only the volunteer gets to choose what they're doing. The recipient of the offering, the volunteer offering, doesn't get to choose whether that person is there tomorrow. And so I really struggled with this in the downtown east side. Many people think, oh, well, look at how good I am. I'm volunteering and I'm doing good. Why don't you appreciate me more? Poor person who just got a free blanket. And guy with free blanket says, well, I could have used it yesterday. So I think volunteerism needs a bit of a reframing in our society. I think that the idea of contributing is really critical. And I think that's what you're getting at, that we need to make a contribution, whether it's to an organization or to a cause. And I think there are lots of ways. Boards of directors, nonprofits certainly. We do a lot of our fundraising for Skackle relies on volunteers, on people who don't get paid to do that work. So I'm not going to, I don't mean to completely poo-poo the idea of people contributing to a cause. But I want to be careful about that assumption around volunteers, and that volunteers recognize the power dynamic that they are sort of stepping into, and they own the fact that it's only single direction. Sorry, I hope that's an acceptable answer.
All right, I'm going to close off with the last question. Can you briefly share with us like a big failure you've had? Because it's not all roses, I guarantee.
Yeah, you're so right. We've never made bad beer. But we, I've had lots of failures. I'm not going to, there's no question about it. In fact, I've had failures of businesses, startups that didn't work, and even within some of these businesses. And one of the ones that still stings me is we spent when we started the farm, we bought agricultural land and said we're going to do a farm-based business, not unlike what wineries do, and we'll figure it out as we go. So I don't regret the mistake in really understanding the bureaucratic challenges that would come with that. It has been a lot of extra work, but it's been worthwhile. What I regret is not understanding the ecological impacts that processing might have on land. And the key one that we're still working hard on, and Dion as a manager of sustainability and our general manager still have a tough time, we're laying it in bed at night, is that the water that comes out of a brewing system is very low in oxygen. And so as a result, if that water goes into traditional fish-bearing streams or plant-growing streams, can deoxygenate and cause real problems. And so we've spent, an inordinate amount of money on our wastewater treatment system, and I regret not being better prepared, not really thinking about what our processing could imply ecologically on our land. And yet, here we are, sort of trying to find our way out of it as responsibly as we can.
The two companies selected to join our program at Purple for the next 6 months are Habitat for Humanity and the Start Fresh project. So we're really pleased to and looking forward to working with both of you. So big shout out to Valley First. They were really first in to commit to changing this event to create sort of like lasting legacy and program support over 6 months, as opposed to what I said needed to change was handing out small checks that sometimes don't make that much of a difference. We're confident that 6 months of structured entrepreneurial support will prove out bigger than the check could have been. So second, the Crowd Pleaser award, it actually also goes to Start Fresh. So congratulations. This is like a therapy session for me as a social entrepreneur, listening to other social entrepreneurs, but also really inspiring. I really hope that you walk away from this inspired. We hope that you walk away and do something. Like, what are you doing here? Take away from that, and let's till our own soil. Thanks so much.